Maya Richardson sat in her corner office, staring at the stack of complaint letters that seemed to grow bigger every month. 15 years ago, she had started her real estate company with nothing but a dream and a borrowed desk in someone else's office. Now Richardson Properties had 3 locations and was one of the most successful real estate firms in the city. But something was wrong. Very wrong. The coffee in her mug had gone cold as she read through another complaint from the Johnson family. They had walked into her downtown office 3 weeks ago, excited about buying their first home. The letter described how they felt unwelcome from the moment they stepped inside. The agent had looked them up and down, asked pointed questions about their credit, and showed them only houses in certain neighborhoods, even though they had specifically requested to see homes in better school districts. Maya picked up another letter. This one was from an elderly couple who had been trying to sell their house for months. They lived in a neighborhood where most families looked like them. Black families who had worked hard their whole lives to build something for their children. But their agent had priced their home $20,000 below market value, claiming that was realistic for that area. When they protested, they were told that homes in their neighborhood just didn't sell for much. She reached for her phone and called Detective Brooks, her neighbor and longtime friend. "Hey Patricia, I need to ask you something. You know that house 2 streets over from yours that sold last month? The Hendersons' place?" "Oh yeah, the blue colonial. Beautiful house, why? What did it sell for?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer would make her stomach turn. "I think around $450, maybe $460. Tom mentioned it because he was shocked it went so fast at that price." Maya closed her eyes. The Henderson house was nearly identical to the Johnson house that her agent had listed for $380. Same size, same age, same condition. The only difference was the neighborhood. The Hendersons lived where most of the families were white. The Johnsons lived where most families were black. "Thanks, Patricia. I'll talk to you later." Maya hung up and pulled out her laptop. She spent the next 2 hours comparing listings from her 3 offices. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Houses in predominantly white neighborhoods were consistently priced higher than similar properties in black neighborhoods. The price gaps were huge, sometimes $30,000 to $40,000 for nearly identical homes. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Mrs. Richardson?" "Mr. Collins is here for the monthly meeting." David Collins was her operations manager, a man she had hired 5 years ago based on his impressive resume and smooth interview. He walked in with his usual confident smile, carrying a folder full of charts and numbers. "Maya, great news. We're up 12% from last quarter. The team is really hitting their targets." "Sit down, David, we need to talk." His smile faltered slightly as he took the chair across from her desk. Maya spread the complaint letters across her desk. "David, I've been getting a lot of complaints lately. Families saying they felt discriminated against. Sellers saying their houses were underpriced. What's going on?" David glanced at the letters and shrugged. "Maya, you know how it is. Some people are never happy. Maybe their expectations were too high. We price houses based on market conditions, comparable sales. You know the drill." "Do we?" Maya picked up a printout. "Because I just compared the Henderson house on Maple Street to the Johnson house on Oak Avenue. Same size, same age, same condition. We listed the Johnson house for $80,000 less. Well, location matters. Oak Avenue isn't exactly a premium neighborhood." "Premium? David, it's a nice quiet street with well-maintained homes and good schools. What makes it less premium than Maple Street?" David shifted in his chair. "Look, Maya, I don't make the market. I just work within it. Buyers have preferences. Some neighborhoods move faster than others. That's just reality." Maya felt her jaw tighten. "Whose reality?" "I think you might be overthinking this," David said, standing up. "Our numbers are good. Our agents are productive. Maybe we should focus on that." After he left, Maya sat alone with a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. The same feeling she had when she was starting out and older. White real estate veterans would pat her on the head and tell her she was ambitious for someone like her. She picked up her phone again, this time calling her lawyer, Kenneth Wright. "Ken, it's Maya. I need to ask you something confidential. Have you heard any rumors about discrimination complaints against real estate companies in our area?" There was a pause. "Maya, why are you asking?" "Just answer the question, please." "There have been some rumblings. The civil rights attorney downtown, Lisa Chen, has been asking questions about certain practices. Word is she's building a case against someone in the real estate industry." "Maya, is everything okay?" Maya stared out her window at the busy street below. I'm not sure. That evening, Maya drove through the Oak Avenue neighborhood where the Johnson family had been looking. The houses were beautiful. Well-kept lawns, children playing in yards, neighbors chatting on porches. She parked and walked around for 20 minutes. This was exactly the kind of neighborhood where any family would be proud to raise their children. Then she drove to Maple Street, where the Henderson house had sold. It was nice too, but honestly not nicer than Oak Avenue. If anything, the Oak Avenue neighborhood had better schools and was closer to downtown. Maya pulled into her driveway feeling sick to her stomach. She had built her company to be different. She had wanted to create opportunities, to help families achieve their dreams, to prove that a black woman could run a successful business that served everyone fairly. But what if she had been wrong? What if, while she was busy building her empire, her employees had been doing exactly what she had fought against her entire career? She walked into her house and poured herself a glass of wine. Her reflection in the kitchen window showed a successful woman in an expensive suit, but tonight she felt like that young woman from 15 years ago who had been dismissed and underestimated at every turn. Her phone buzzed with a text from her daughter in college. Mom, my friend's parents are looking for a house in your area. Can you help them? They're a really nice family, but they've had some bad experiences with real estate agents. Maya stared at the message. Her own daughter was referring people to her, trusting that her mother's company would treat them right. The weight of that trust felt heavier than ever. She finished her wine and made a decision. Tomorrow she would start paying closer attention to what was really happening in her offices. If there were problems, she would fix them. If there were people working against everything she believed in, she would deal with them. Maya Richardson hadn't built her company by avoiding hard truths. She had built it by facing them head-on, and if she had to do it again, she would. But first, she needed to know exactly what she was dealing with. The complaint letters were just the beginning. Tomorrow she would start looking deeper. She had no idea how deep the problems went, and she had no idea that in just a few days, she would be walking into her own offices as a customer, experiencing firsthand what her clients had been trying to tell her all along. Maya stared at herself in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back. Gone was her usual perfectly styled hair, replaced with a simple ponytail. Instead of her designer business suits, she wore jeans and a plain sweater. She had even bought inexpensive glasses from the drugstore to complete the disguise. For the next week, she wouldn't be Maya Richardson, CEO of Richardson Properties. She would be Michelle Johnson, a middle school teacher looking to buy her first home. The plan had come to her 3 days after that conversation with her operations manager. She had spent those days reviewing more files, making more calls, and discovering more problems. But everyone kept giving her the same explanations, the same excuses. They were all very good at telling her what they thought she wanted to hear. Maya needed to see the truth for herself. She had created a fake identity complete with a new phone number and email address. She had researched teacher salaries and prepared a backstory about saving up for years to buy her first home. She even practiced changing her voice slightly, speaking a little softer, a little less confidently than usual. Her first stop was the downtown office, the same one where the Johnson family had their bad experience. Maya parked across the street and watched the office for a few minutes, her heart pounding. This felt crazy, but she had to know. The receptionist looked up when Maya walked in. Can I help you? Hi, I'm Michelle Johnson. I called earlier about looking at some houses. Oh yes, let me get someone for you. The receptionist glanced at Maya from head to toe before picking up the phone. Tony, there's someone here to see houses. Tony Reeves emerged from the back office. Maya knew him well. He had been with the company for 3 years and always had impressive sales numbers. But as Michelle Johnson, she was meeting him for the first time. Michelle, nice to meet you. I'm Tony. So you're looking to buy your first home? Yes, I'm really excited. I've been saving for so long. Tony's smile was professional, but Maya noticed his eyes doing a quick assessment. Great. What's your price range? I was hoping to stay under $200,000, but I could go a little higher for the right place. Under 200? Tony's eyebrows went up slightly. Okay. Well, let's be realistic about what that's going to get you in this market. What do you do for work? I teach middle school. Ah, okay. Public school? When Maya nodded, Tony's expression changed subtly. Well, we'll work with what we have. Let me show you some properties that might work. Tony led her to his computer and pulled up several listings. Maya watched as he scrolled past houses she knew were in her budget, houses in nice neighborhoods with good schools. Instead, he focused on a handful of properties in areas she recognized as less desirable. "Now this one here is a great starter home," Tony said, pointing to a small house that needed obvious repairs. "It's in a nice, quiet neighborhood. Very affordable." Maya knew the neighborhood. It was quiet because half the streetlights were broken and most of the businesses had closed down. "What about something near better schools?" Maya asked. "I work with kids, so education is really important to me." "Oh, well, you have to understand that houses near the top school districts are going to be out of your price range. But don't worry. Kids can succeed anywhere if they really want to, you know?" Maya felt her stomach clench. She knew exactly what neighborhoods had excellent schools within her budget, because she had sold houses there many times. "Can we look at some properties today?" she asked. "Sure. I have some showings we can do right now." The first house Tony showed her was the one from the computer, the fixer-upper in the rundown neighborhood. As they walked through, he kept emphasizing what a good deal it was and how she could really make it her own, with some work. The second house was better, but Maya noticed Tony hurrying through the showing, pointing out problems rather than highlights. "See, the kitchen needs updating. And you'd probably want to replace this flooring." Eventually, it was a perfectly nice house with a kitchen that was maybe 10 years old and hardwood floors that just needed refinishing. As they drove to the third property, Maya decided to test something. "You know, I saw a house online in the Riverside area that looked interesting. Could we take a look at something over there?" Tony's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Riverside? Michelle, I don't think that's really going to be a good fit for you. That area is pretty expensive and honestly, you might not feel comfortable there. Very different crowd, if you know what I mean." Maya knew exactly what he meant and it made her furious. Riverside was a diverse middle-class neighborhood where teachers, firefighters, and small business owners lived. She had sold dozens of homes there to families of all backgrounds. "What do you mean, different crowd?" "Oh, you know, just more upscale. People who've been in their careers longer, that kind of thing. I think you'd be happier somewhere where you fit in better." The third house was another disappointment. Maya watched Tony point out every flaw while downplaying every positive feature. When she asked about making an offer, he immediately started talking about all the additional costs she should expect, and suggested she might want to look at even cheaper properties. Back at the office, Maya sat across from Tony as he prepared paperwork for a follow-up appointment. "You know, Michelle, I want to be honest with you. Buying a home is a big step, and you want to be realistic about what you can afford. Sometimes first-time buyers get their hopes up too high." "I think my expectations are pretty reasonable," Maya said quietly. Sure, but you have to think long-term. What if you lose your job? What if you get sick? Teachers don't exactly have the most stable income if you're being honest about it." Maya had heard enough. She made an excuse about needing to think things over, and left the office feeling absolutely sick. Over the next 4 days, she repeated the same process at her other 2 locations. She visited as Michelle Johnson, the teacher looking for her first home. And every single time, the experience was the same. At the West Side office, Agent Barbara Chen spent an hour showing her rundown properties while dismissing her interest in better neighborhoods. "Those areas are really competitive, Michelle. You'd be competing against buyers who can make cash offers. It might be better to be realistic." When Maya asked about a specific house she had seen online, a lovely 3-bedroom in her budget, Barbara shook her head. "That one's probably going to go fast. And honestly, the homeowners association in that neighborhood can be pretty particular. You might not want to deal with that kind of hassle." At the North Side location, Agent Robert Kim was even worse. He spent the entire appointment trying to talk her out of buying anything, suggesting she should rent for a few more years until she was more established. "Teaching is a good job, don't get me wrong," he said, "but maybe you should wait until you're married. 2 incomes make these decisions a lot easier." Maya left each appointment feeling worse than the last. These weren't just isolated incidents or personality conflicts. This was a pattern, a system, a culture that she had somehow allowed to develop in her own company. On Friday evening, she sat in her car outside the downtown office, watching her employees leave for the day. These were people she had hired, people she trusted, people she considered part of her business family. And they had been treating potential clients terribly, making assumptions, limiting options, and denying opportunities. She thought about all the families who had walked away from her offices feeling defeated and discriminated against. How many dreams had been crushed? How many families had given up on home ownership because of the treatment they received from her agents? Maya drove home knowing that everything was about to change. She had the evidence she needed, recorded conversations on her phone, and documentation of the discriminatory treatment she had experienced firsthand. But she also knew that what came next would be the hardest thing she had ever done as a business owner. Because fixing this problem meant admitting that it existed, and admitting that it existed meant acknowledging that she had failed the very communities she had always wanted to serve. The Michelle Johnson disguise was about to come off, and when it did, Maya Richardson was going to have to face some very uncomfortable truths about the company she had built and the people she had trusted to run it. Maya sat in her home office at midnight, transcribing the conversations she had recorded during her week as Michelle Johnson. With each sentence she typed, her heart broke a little more. This wasn't just about bad customer service or unprofessional behavior. This was about systematic discrimination happening under her own roof. She played back the recording from Tony Reeves again, listening to his voice say, "You might not feel comfortable there. Very different crowd, if you know what I mean." The casual way he had dismissed entire neighborhoods, the assumptions he had made about what she could afford, the way he had steered her away from better options. It was all there, recorded in his own words, but Tony wasn't the worst of it. Maya pulled up the files from her loan officer, Angela Foster. Angela had been with the company for 7 years and had always been praised for her ability to find creative solutions for challenging applications. Now Maya understood what those creative solutions really were. Looking at the loan records with fresh eyes, the pattern was impossible to miss. Black and Latino families were consistently steered toward subprime mortgages and adjustable-rate loans, even when their credit scores and income qualified them for better terms. Meanwhile, white families with similar financial profiles were offered conventional mortgages with lower interest rates. Maya found one case that made her stomach turn. The Williams family had excellent credit scores and steady income from 2 teaching jobs. Angela had put them in an adjustable-rate mortgage that would jump from 4% to 7% after 2 years. That same week, the Peterson family, with slightly lower credit scores and similar income, had been approved for a conventional loan at 3.5%. The only difference Maya could see was that the Williams family was black and the Petersons were white. She picked up her phone and called Angela, even though it was nearly 1 in the morning. "Maya, is everything okay? It's really late." "Angela, I need you to explain something to me. The Williams family that closed last month, why did you put them in an ARM instead of a conventional loan?" There was a long pause. Their debt-to-income ratio was a little high. "I thought the ARM would help them qualify." Maya looked at the file. "Their DTI was 32%. The Petersons were 35% and you got them a conventional loan. Well, the Petersons had better employment history. Angela, both families are teachers with tenure. How much better can employment history get?" Another pause. "Look, Maya, every situation is different. I use my professional judgment to find the best solution for each family. Your professional judgment seems to consistently find worse solutions for certain types of families. I don't know what you're implying, but I resent the accusation. I treat all my clients fairly." Maya hung up, feeling exhausted and angry. Tomorrow she would dig deeper into Angela's files. Tonight she needed to face the recordings from her other offices. The West Side office had been particularly painful. Barbara Chen, who Maya had always considered professional and competent, had made comments that revealed disturbing attitudes about her clients. Maya played back one conversation where Barbara was talking to another agent while they thought Michelle Johnson would die. "S in the bathroom." Another teacher looking in Riverside, Barbara had said with a laugh. "They never understand that just because they work with kids doesn't mean they can afford to live where the rich kids go to school." "Right?" the other agent had replied. "Like stay in your lane, you know?" Maya had to stop the recording and take a deep breath. Stay in your lane, as if there were lanes that people belonged in based on their race or their job or their background. But the North Side office had been the absolute worst. Robert Kim had not only been condescending and dismissive, But Maya had overheard a conversation that revealed just how deep the problems went. While she was looking at listing sheets, Robert had gotten a phone call from another agent about a property in the Highland Park area. Maya had listened as Robert said, "Yeah, I know that house. Nice area, but I wouldn't show it to certain types of clients. You know how the neighbors get when the wrong kind of people start looking around." The wrong kind of people. Maya had built her company to help all kinds of people achieve their dreams, and her employees were talking about wrong kinds of people. She spent the rest of the night going through files, comparing loan terms, reviewing listing prices, and documenting patterns of discrimination that went back years. How had she missed this? How had she been so focused on growth and profits that she had completely missed the fact that her company was perpetuating exactly the kind of discrimination she had faced when she was starting out? The next morning, Maya called her lawyer, Kenneth Wright. "Ken, I need to see you today. I've discovered some serious problems in my company." "What kind of problems?" "The kind that could destroy everything I've built. The kind that could land me in federal court." Kenneth's office was downtown, in a building Maya had admired since she was young. She remembered looking up at those tall windows when she was just starting out, dreaming of the day she would be successful enough to afford lawyers in buildings like this. Now she sat across from Kenneth's desk, explaining what she had discovered. "Maya, this is serious. If even half of what you're telling me is true, you could be looking at discrimination lawsuits, federal investigations, and massive financial liability." "I know. That's why I need to act fast. What are you thinking of doing?" Maya had been up all night considering her options. She could fire the worst offenders and implement new training. She could transfer agents around and hope the culture would gradually change. She could bring in outside consultants to review policies and procedures, but every option felt like a half measure, a way of managing the problem rather than solving it. "Ken, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. If you were in my position, if you discovered that your company was systematically discriminating against people who looked like you, people who had the same struggles you had, what would you do?" Kenneth leaned back in his chair. "Maya, you're talking about your livelihood. You're talking about 15 years of building a business. You have to be careful not to make decisions based on emotion. This isn't emotion, Ken. This is about integrity. This is about whether I'm going to be part of the problem or part of the solution." She left Kenneth's office more determined than ever. The legal implications were serious, but the moral implications were even more serious. Every day she allowed this culture to continue was another day that families were being denied opportunities. Another day that dreams were being crushed. Another day that her company was making the world a little bit worse instead of a little bit better. That afternoon, Maya drove through the neighborhoods where her agents had refused to show houses to Michelle Johnson. She stopped at the elementary school in Riverside, watching children get picked up by parents of every color and background. These were the families her agents thought belonged in different lanes. She thought about her own daughter away at college, proud of her mother's success. What would she think if she knew that her mother's company was discriminating against families just like the ones she had grown up with? Maya made her decision. She called her assistant and scheduled an all-staff meeting for the next morning. Every employee from all 3 offices would be required to attend. She spent that evening preparing what would be the most difficult presentation of her career. She would show them the evidence, play the recordings, and confront them with the truth about what they had been doing. Some would deny it. Some would make excuses. Some would claim they were just following market conditions or company policies. But Maya Richardson had built her company on the principle that everyone deserved a fair chance at the American dream. If her employees couldn't support that principle, then they couldn't work for her company. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. The question was whether she would have any employees left when it was over. Maya arrived at the office 2 hours early, her hands shaking as she set up the laptop and projector in the main conference room. Today, she would face her entire staff as herself for the first time since her week as Michelle Johnson. The evidence was organized in folders, the recordings were queued up on her laptop, and her presentation was ready. She had barely slept, spending the night rehearsing what she would say, and trying to prepare herself for the reactions she was about to face. These weren't strangers. They were people she had worked with for years, people she had trusted with her business, people she had celebrated successes with. At 9 o'clock sharp, employees began filing into the conference room. Tony Reeves walked in with his usual confident swagger. nodding at Maya as he took his seat. Barbara Chen entered quietly, checking her phone. Angela Foster brought her coffee and a notepad, ready to take notes like she always did in meetings. Maya watched each face as they settled into their chairs. In just a few minutes, everything would change forever. When everyone was seated, Maya stood at the front of the room. The 23 employees of Richardson Properties looked at her expectantly, probably assuming this was another quarterly review or announcement about new policies. "Thank you all for being here," Maya began, her voice steadier than she felt. "What I'm about to share with you is going to be difficult, but it's necessary." She clicked to her first slide, which showed the complaint letters that had started this whole investigation. Over the past few months, I've received numerous complaints from clients who felt they were treated unfairly by our company. Families who said they felt unwelcome, sellers who believed their properties were undervalued, buyers who were steered away from certain neighborhoods. A few people shifted in their seats. Robert Kim crossed his arms defensively. "Initially, I brought these concerns to management and was told these were isolated incidents, unrealistic expectations, market conditions." Maya's voice grew stronger, but the complaints kept coming. "So I decided to investigate for myself." Maya clicked to the next slide, which showed a photo of herself as Michelle Johnson, the teacher looking for her first home. The room went completely silent. Several people's eyes widened in recognition. For 1 week, I posed as a potential home buyer and visited each of our 3 offices. I wanted to see firsthand how we treat our clients. Tony's face had gone pale. Barbara was staring at the screen with her mouth slightly open. Angela had stopped taking notes. What I discovered shocked and disappointed me beyond words. Maya played the first recording, Tony's voice saying, "You might not feel comfortable there." Very different crowd, if you know what I mean. The silence in the room was deafening. Tony was staring at his hands, his confident demeanor completely gone. That was Tony, explaining to me why I shouldn't look at houses in Riverside, a neighborhood that was perfectly within my budget and would have been perfect for a teacher. She played another clip, this one of Barbara laughing about teachers who don't understand that just because they work with kids doesn't mean they can afford to live where the rich kids go to school. Barbara's face flushed red. Several other agents were looking around the room nervously. "And this is from our Northside office," Maya said, playing Robert's comment about not showing houses to certain types of clients because of how the neighbors get. Robert started to stand up. "Maya, let me explain." "Sit down, Robert." "I'm not finished." Maya clicked to the next slide, showing the loan comparison data she had compiled. "Angela, can you explain to everyone why the Williams family, with a debt-to-income ratio of 32%, was put into an adjustable rate mortgage, while the Peterson family, with a ratio of 35%, received a conventional loan at a lower rate?" Angela's voice was barely a whisper. "Every situation is different, is it? Because I've reviewed 50 loan files from the past year, and there's a very clear pattern. Black and Latino families consistently receive worse loan terms than white families with similar credit profiles." Maya spent the next 20 minutes presenting the evidence she had gathered. Price comparisons showing systematic undervaluation of properties in minority neighborhoods, documentation of steering practices that directed families away from integrated areas, examples of discriminatory comments and attitudes from multiple employees. With each piece of evidence, the room grew more tense. Some employees looked genuinely shocked, as if they were learning about these practices for the first time. Others looked guilty, caught eye, and behaviors they had hoped no one would notice. A few looked defiant, as if they were preparing to defend their actions. When Maya finished her presentation, the silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Tony spoke up. "Maya, you have to understand we're just working within market realities. We can't control buyer preferences or neighborhood dynamics." "Market realities?" Maya's voice was sharp. "Is it market reality that you assumed I couldn't afford a $200,000 house because I'm a teacher? Is it market reality that you warned me away from neighborhoods because I wouldn't fit in?" "I was trying to save you from disappointment," Tony said. "I've seen too many people get their hopes up for houses they can't really afford." "Based on what?" "You knew nothing about my financial situation except my job and what I looked like." Barbara Chen raised her hand tentatively. "Maya, I think there might be some misunderstandings here. We're all trying to do our best for our clients." Maya turned to her. Barbara explained to me how laughing about teachers who don't know their place is doing your best for clients. That was taken out of context. I was just frustrated because sometimes people have unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations like wanting to live in a safe neighborhood with good schools, like expecting to be shown houses they can actually afford. Robert Kim finally stood up, his face red with anger. You know what, Maya? This is ridiculous. You're twisting everything to make us look bad. We work hard. We make sales. We bring in revenue for this company. And now you're attacking us based on some undercover stunt? Undercover stunt? Maya's voice rose. Robert, I experienced exactly what our minority clients have been trying to tell us they experience. The difference is I have the power to do something about it. So what are you going to do? Fire all of us? Destroy your own business because of some politically correct crusade? The room erupted. Several people started talking at once. Some were defending themselves, others were attacking Robert for his outburst, and a few were trying to apologize. Maya raised her hand for silence. When the room finally quieted, she took a deep breath. I built this company on the belief that everyone deserves a fair chance at home ownership. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Everyone deserves to have their dreams taken seriously. She looked around the room at faces she had known for years. What I discovered this week is that while I was building a business, some of you were building barriers. While I was trying to create opportunities, some of you were limiting them. While I was working to serve all families equally, some of you were deciding which families deserved better treatment. Maya picked up a stack of folders from her desk. These folders contained termination letters. If your name is on one of these folders, your employment with Richardson Properties ends today. The room was dead silent again. Tony Reeves, your services are no longer needed. Tony's folder hit the table with a solid thud. Barbara Chen, you're terminated. Angela Foster, you're terminated. Robert Kim, you're terminated. One by one, Maya called out names. Agents who had steered clients away from better neighborhoods. Loan officers who had discriminated in their approvals. Administrative staff who had made inappropriate comments about clients. When she finished, 17 of her 23 employees had been fired. The remaining 6 employees, a young intern, a recently hired agent, 2 administrative assistants who had tried to treat all clients fairly, and 2 agents who had actually defended minority clients, sat in stunned silence. For those of you who are staying, Maya said, her voice exhausted but firm, we're going to rebuild this company the right way. We're going to serve all families with respect and dignity. We're going to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. She looked at the 17 people she had just fired. You have 1 hour to clear out your offices. Security will escort you out. Any attempts to contact current clients or interfere with ongoing transactions will result in legal action. As the fired employees filed out of the room, some angry, some crying, some still in shock, Maya sat down heavily in her chair. She had just destroyed her company to save its soul. Now she had to figure out how to rebuild it. The morning after the mass firing, Maya sat in her nearly empty office, staring at the phone that hadn't stopped ringing since word got out about what had happened. Local news stations wanted interviews. Other real estate agencies were calling to poach her remaining clients. And former employees were threatening lawsuits. She had spent the night fielding calls from panicked clients whose transactions were now in limbo. Some were understanding when she explained what had happened. Others were furious that their deals might fall through because of her personal crusade, as one seller had called it. Maya's assistant, Jennifer, one of the 6 employees who had kept their jobs, knocked on the door. Mrs. Richardson? There's a reporter here from Channel 7, and your lawyer is on line 3. Tell the reporter I'll have a statement later. Put Kenneth through. Maya, I've been fielding calls all morning, Kenneth said as soon as she picked up. 3 former employees have already contacted attorneys. You're looking at wrongful termination suits, and that's just the beginning. Ken, I fired them for discriminating against clients. I have evidence. Evidence that you obtained through deception. They're going to argue entrapment, violation of privacy, hostile work environment. This is going to get messy. Maya closed her eyes. She had known this was coming, but it didn't make it any easier. What's done is done, Ken. Now I need to focus on rebuilding. Maya, you fired 75% of your staff. You have 6 people left to handle 3 offices and dozens of active transactions. How are you going to keep your business from collapsing? It was a fair question. Maya looked around her office at the empty desks visible through her glass door. Last week, this place had been bustling with activity. Now it felt like a ghost town. "I'll figure it out," she said, though she wasn't sure how. The first challenge came immediately. The Peterson family, whose conventional loan Maya had used as evidence of Angela's discriminatory practices, called to say they were pulling out of their purchase. "We don't want to be involved in whatever drama you have going on over there," Mr. Peterson said. "We'll find another lender." Maya wanted to point out that the drama was about ensuring fair treatment for all families, but she understood their position. They just wanted to buy a house without complications. By the end of the first week, she had lost 6 active transactions and 2 major commercial deals. The financial impact was immediate and painful. But something unexpected happened too. On Wednesday morning, Maya got a call from Dr. Patricia Williams, the teacher whose family had been steered into the adjustable rate mortgage. "Mrs. Richardson, I saw the news about your company. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "Dr. Williams, I'm so sorry about what happened with your loan. I had no idea. Mrs. Richardson, you could have quietly fixed the problem and moved on. Instead, you took a stand. You put your business on the line to do what was right. That means everything to families like mine." Dr. Williams wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, Maya received calls and emails from dozens of minority families who had been clients of her company over the years. Some had suspected they were being treated unfairly but hadn't known how to prove it. Others had simply assumed that was how the real estate industry worked. "I always wondered why my agent kept showing me houses that needed so much work," wrote one client. "Now I understand it wasn't about my budget, it was about their assumptions." The positive responses gave Maya hope, but they didn't solve her immediate problem. She still had a business to run with a skeleton crew. Maya called an emergency meeting with her remaining staff: Jennifer, the assistant; Carlos, the young intern who was studying for his real estate license; Maria, a newer agent who had been horrified by the revelations about her former colleagues; Linda and James, 2 veteran agents who had somehow managed to treat all clients fairly despite working in the toxic culture; and Patricia, the office manager from the West Side location who had always been professional and respectful. "I know this is overwhelming," Maya said, looking at the 6 people sitting around the conference table that had held 23 just a week ago. "I know you're all wondering if you'll have jobs next month, if the company will survive, if I've lost my mind." Carlos, who was barely 25, raised his hand. "Mrs. Richardson, I want you to know that I support what you did. I've been studying fair housing law for my license exam, and what those agents were doing was illegal. You did the right thing." "Thank you, Carlos. But doing the right thing and running a successful business aren't always the same thing." Maria leaned forward. "What if we made them the same thing?" "What do you mean?" "What if we rebuilt this company around the idea of being the place where families come when they want to be treated fairly? What if we made our reputation for equality and respect our biggest selling point?" Maya felt a spark of excitement for the first time since the confrontation. "Go on. Think about it," Maria continued. "There are thousands of families in this city who have had bad experiences with real estate agents. Families who were discriminated against, ignored, or treated poorly. What if we became known as the company that fights for those families?" Linda, who had been quiet until now, nodded slowly. "Maria's right. I've been in this business for 15 years and I've seen how other companies treat minority clients. If we could build a reputation as the company that truly serves everyone equally, we could capture a huge market." Over the next 2 hours, they brainstormed ideas for rebuilding Richardson Properties with fairness and equality as its foundation. They would partner with community organizations that served minority families. They would implement blind evaluation processes for property valuations to eliminate bias. They would create a client advocacy program specifically designed to protect vulnerable buyers. "We'll need to hire new agents," Maya said, "but this time we'll be very careful about who we bring on. What if we prioritized hiring agents who had experienced discrimination themselves?" Patricia suggested. "People who understand what it feels like to be dismissed or stereotyped." Maya smiled for the first time in weeks. "That's exactly what we'll do." The rebuilding process was slow and difficult. Maya had to personally handle many transactions while training new staff. She worked 16-hour days, answered emails at midnight, and showed houses on weekends. But gradually, word spread about what had happened at Richardson Properties and what the company was trying to become. The local chapter of the NACP endorsed their services. A Spanish-language newspaper wrote a feature article about Maya's commitment to fair treatment. A women's professional organization recommended Richardson Properties to their members. 3 months after the mass firing, Maya hired her first new agent, a young black woman named Keisha, who had been discriminated against by 2 other real estate companies before finding Richardson Properties. "Mrs. Richardson," Keisha said on her first day, "I want you to know that working here isn't just a job for me. It's a chance to be part of something important." 6 months later, the company had grown back to 12 employees. But these weren't just any employees. They were people who had chosen to work for Richardson Properties specifically because of its mission. They came from diverse backgrounds and brought different perspectives, but they all shared a commitment to treating every client with dignity and respect. The financial turnaround was remarkable. Once word spread that Richardson Properties was a company where all families were treated fairly, business boomed. Minority families who had been ignored or mistreated by other agencies became loyal customers. But surprisingly, white families began choosing Richardson Properties too, attracted by the company's reputation for honesty and integrity. A year after the confrontation, Maya sat in her office reviewing the annual numbers. Revenue was up 18% from the previous year. Client satisfaction scores were the highest in the company's history. And most importantly, the complaint letters had stopped coming. Maya's daughter called that evening from college. "Mom, I saw the article about your company in the Business Journal. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, sweetheart. It's been a difficult year, but I think we're finally where we need to be. You know what the best part is? Now when I tell people my mom owns a real estate company, I know they're going to be treated right no matter what they look like or where they come from." Maya smiled, remembering the fear she had felt when she first discovered the problems in her company. She had thought that confronting the discrimination would destroy everything she had built. Instead, it had allowed her to build something better, a company that lived up to its values, a business that made the community stronger, and a legacy she could be truly proud of. The phone rang with another call from a family looking for help buying their first home. Maya picked it up with confidence, knowing that whoever was on the other end of the line would be treated with the respect and dignity they deserved. "Richardson Properties, this is Maya. How can I help you achieve your dreams?"